Good evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Anti-Stall Racing League here for the IMSA Series race number 3 at Daytona International Speedway. We are, of course, on the road course configuration today, and what a magnificent circuit it is. We are ever so excited to look at a circuit as almost sort of a pinnacle of just the endurance in general. Obviously, the Daytona 24 hours on the IMSA calendar in real life is so iconic for these cars and these drivers. So naturally, this is one that I think all these IMSA drivers are going to want to win. And it's going to be an absolute corker. We have 42 cars out today, and that is split quite nicely into, I believe, it was around about 15 LMP2s, and then the rest were GTs. But we will obviously get those updated numbers during qualifying. And as always, I am Ava, one of your commentators, joined by the ever lovely Wes. Mate, how you doing?
Oh, I'm good. Hello, everybody. It's night time here, and it's night time at Daytona. How about that? I think every time we come here, it seems to be dark, but it's lovely under the lights this circuit, so I'm not going to complain at all. The drivers might eventually, but there's enough lights from around the circuit, as well as the cars themselves. There's enough of them today, so there won't be a dark patch on this circuit at all.
No, absolutely not. And obviously, very important that there isn't any as we get into qualifying, because there are quite a few corners that are, some might say, very tricky in the Daytona road course. You have the likes of the bus stop chicane, very tricky corner, especially when you can't really see the turning point very well, especially if you're trying to make a move there. And also, turn 1, very tricky corner, especially in the prototypes. Maybe not so much in the GTs. The GTs have a bit more braking potential to make turn 1 that little bit easier, obviously with the assist of ABS. Whereas the P2 guys might struggle a little bit. We may see a couple of spinners into turn 1, and it's just the way that into turn 1, obviously you've got the banking to contend with, and then it flattens out partway through the corner as you're braking. So you almost need to try and come in as shallow of an angle as you possibly can to make sure the rear end of your car doesn't get loose and end up putting you in a wall. Either that, or you lock up the brakes and just go straight on. Also, not a very good thing to do, because straight ahead of you, after you turn in for turn 1, is wall. And let's just say that if a car hits a wall, it's not going much further.
Nice.
But it's you want to try and avoid that where possible, right?
Yeah, definitely avoid the walls, especially the ones on the oval part. There is no tyre walls, so they're quite concrete, and they will do a lot of damage at the speed the cars are going at as well. So, only one fast repair, I believe, and just an hour's worth of racing. You don't want to hit them many times.
No, not at all. And the other thing as well to talk about is the fact that here, obviously, under the lights, it's going to be more important than ever, I think, for these drivers to really actually learn the difference between all the different headlight shapes, to really get an idea on whether or not it's a P2 or a GT coming up behind you. Obviously, there is a massive help at the fact that they have different color headlights as well, which is actually going to probably be more of a benefit to the GT guys than it will the P2 guys. Obviously, the P2 guys, if they're seeing somebody in their mirror and they're keeping up with them, then they kind of know it's a P2. And if they see somebody in their mirrors getting smaller, then they know it was a GT. So, more so for the GT guys than the P2s, I think, is going to be the headlight difference. Is going to play a massive part of just the general racecraft, I think we'll see today. And the thing with Daytona is it might look like quite a simple circuit, but when you actually break it down, the road course here is actually one I think a lot of people underestimate the difficulty of. Especially with corners like the bus stop, as we see Lars going through there and getting the back end a little bit loose as he turns in. So that's also another thing we'll see, I'm sure, is the car setups are going to be set up probably a little bit more loose than usual, because you want to run as little downforce as you can, right? Because, you know, you've got that big, long straight here, and slipstream is going to play a factor, certainly, especially in qualifying. If you can have a teammate slipstreaming with you all the way to the line, then you will find that that will massively improve your lap times. As we see Raul Suarez there going into P1 with a 142.1, and I believe in the background of, I believe when we were on board with Lars's lap, that we actually saw him and his teammate drafting each other down the sort of back straight, if you want to call it that, going into the bus stop. So, again, something that I'm sure we will see a lot of, and especially earlier on in the race, if you can keep with the slipstream of the car in front of you, chances are you're going to set yourself up to be in a good position to win the race, especially later on during sort of, maybe the first pit stop is probably going to be the place we'll notice it the most, is if you come out of the pits and you're in clean air. Actually, that's probably more of a detriment than it is a help, because that slipstream really is worth just so much around here. But the other thing that night racing gives us, and again, Wes, question for yourself, mate. What car looks the best under the lights here at Daytona?
I think these two here, these look stunning. They look, especially the Audi with the livery on it. I think these cars look absolutely stunning. The JD sim racing cars, I think it just works really well. There's loads actually. There's a lot in LMP2 as well. Obviously Frank Smith's in LMP2 and Benjamin are two that stand out as well up on a course. There's quite a few actually in MP2 that stick out, but GT3 wise, there's loads. These two stick out brilliantly. Oh, here's one that really does. I hope he's out on track. I think he is. The Richard. Is it yellow? Is it green? Debate. I can't remember how. I think it ended up being yellow, didn't it? But if you look at it in this light, that's green.
Nah, I'm still not having it. I'm still not having it.
It looks stunning though, but it's to me, I was in practice earlier. I was like, that looks green again. That does, but I know I lost and it's yellow, but it looks really, really nice in the lights. It really does. Of course, the boosted cars as well of Tim Perry. As we watch Richard crash in front, that was a big one. That's broken now. That car looks fantastic. The orange ones, of course, of all the Team Netherlands ones look absolutely great. Of course, all of the Leo ones look fantastic as well. They all look really, really stunning. I think the rule and stuff, their car looks great. I think there's, especially with the blue, when the light comes on that blue at the bottom of their livery, it looks really, really nice. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, it looks really, really good. I believe, but yeah, there's so many different ones that look great. But yeah, I like a lot. Martin Brandon's as well, the massive dragon on the side of it. I can't see it from there, but it has a massive dragon, obviously. These got ones as well. Christian's looks fantastic. The orange
with the chrome.
Yeah.
Oh, the blue chrome is so nice.
It looks great.
Something I was going to say, that's something that I'm actually excited to see, is how Benjamin's livery looks in LMP2.
Yes, because it's more of a
it's quite a simplistic dark livery, but he has that splash of colour in there.
Yeah,
and I
detail.
want to see whether or not that's more noticeable in night races than it is the brighter races that we have. Obviously, last couple of weeks we've been in glorious sunshine and it's been lovely and amazing, but hey, the night racing is where the endurance fans are going to love it.
Yeah.
This is where the endurance fans come out.
So, just quickly run through the championship standings as we're in qualifying, just so we get an understanding before they finish. So this is how the GT3s look after 2 rounds. Lizzo is at the top at the moment. It's 13 points in it between him and Rule. There's so many points on offer this season. We're going to be in the thousands after this race anyway. So it doesn't matter too much because obviously we're only at round 2 and there's 35 points for pole at the moment. So the top of the standings will change a lot. But we could probably get into it more later in the season. But that is how your top 18 look heading into this round. And I believe, if I'm not wrong, I'm pretty certain every single one of those top 18 are here today. So that's always a good sign.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Alessio, though, I will say, is a little bit further down than you probably expect them to be. I mean, P3, still good, but 3/10 off of what Raul was able to do? I mean, you'd expect them to be a little bit closer. But we mentioned slipstream.
Yeah.
Right, we're seeing it now.
This works.
Victor immediately straight up ahead of Bernardi. And that's probably nothing more than just slipstream, to be honest.
Well, what was it, 10th? I reckon, not even that, was it? So yeah, more slipstream. I think Ryan just got some help as well from Adam, if I'm not wrong. Is it Ryan or Adam that's crossed the line? Ryan has. I think he's definitely, yeah. Their teammates helps having a teammate, doesn't it? It's work. They're doing it. They're all doing it. All the team. Look, the Porsches are coming out again. Side by side. Not sorry, wrong one. But they're coming out. All of them. Look at the two teammates. All of them coming out as one in the pits here. Everybody knows. Get some slipstream. They've got what? I think a minute to get out there and start their lap. I think is it. Do they have 12 minutes each, or have they extended it for this one?
It's now up to 14.
Yeah, 14, isn't it?
14 each. And then we had that sort of 2-minute changeover period.
Yeah, which is great to see.
Because they found that there wasn't enough action on track between the two of them, which, now looking back at it, I think
that's nice.
Maybe we should... the Hatsune Miku Good Smile Racing.
That's nice, yes. And I'm not sure. I wonder, I'm going to quickly do some trading paints, because I'm pretty certain...
General Diaz, I think that's his first time running that livery.
Yeah,
so
I'm pretty certain he's with the Turtle team. I think he should have a different livery on, so I'll just check that, even though that does look fantastic anyway. I'll just double check that maybe...
if you're a fan of Super GT, you've seen that livery a lot. It's one of its main sort of one of the first sort of series that the Good Smile Racing team were entering in.
Oh, there's someone. Elizo's gone up someone's backside there.
The Leo and the boosted cars getting a little bit too close together for comfort. Yeah. I mean, I know you want to try and get slipstream, but that's probably not the way you want to go about doing it.
No, probably not. No, definitely not. Even 21 cars at the moment. I've put a time in for. There is another 4 cars out there for GT3s, so there's 25 of them in total in this going to be into this race. So it's a big grid. Not even including the LMP2s that we've got as well. So this is a big one.
Yeah, and one thing that I'm very curious about, if we do manage to get sort of a crossover period between when GTs and LMPs are pitting. That pit lane is going to be the busiest thing you'll ever see in your life.
Yeah, it's going to be like the M25, isn't it? It's going to be... I've got this exit. I'm on the wrong lane situation, I think, very quickly. Yeah, it's going to be astonishing to see how that all hangs out. It's going to be great. Going to be great under the lights.
I was going to say, thankfully, it's not like R Factor 2, where, you have collisions enabled in the pit lane.
Oh, could you imagine the chaos?
Yeah.
I think they should do that, but that would be chaotic, and I'd love to see it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That would be insane, actually. I'd love that, because of what... Even more realism, but crikey, yeah, there would be so much chaos. Especially, that would be catastrophic, I think, but I'd love it.
The other thing as well is sort of like the first couple of races that every driver does, if the iRacing do update their system and make it so that collisions are enabled in the pit lane. The first couple of times people do it, there will be a lot of I drove into that guy by accident because I forgot.
Yeah, fully. Oh, I forgot he was gonna be solid when I got there. I didn't realise. Yeah, easily. Yeah, fully. My bad.
There'll be a lot of people going into the pit lane and like their box is sandwiched between 2 cars and they can't quite fit in because of where somebody is like parked a little bit too far back and the other person's parked a little bit too far forward. A bit like trying to do some parallel parking in London.
Yeah. Gotta pay for parking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
they've just slipstreamed to another fastest lap for all there. He's got a bit more of a gap now.
Yeah, and again, I think that's what these guys really have to do. And I mean, that is going now to the end of the GT, so any GT that is currently on a lap will be able to finish it. And then obviously, any GT that's not on a lap will be back into the pit lane. And again, that is close in GT. Davide and his teammate actually able to get really close, and his teammate didn't even have slipstream.
No.
So being able to do a lap that fast without slipstream, I mean, if Fabio had the slipstream there, I reckon we would have seen a new pole position, man.
Oh, look at them all queuing. Isn't that fantastic? They're queuing. God,
I mean,
great.
Wes, we're British. We appreciate a good queue, don't we?
They're queuing. They are.
We do
Look at them.
appreciate it.
Here
Oh,
they come.
Look at Benjamin's car, by the way.
Oh, they're queuing. I love it.
Just want to say, Benjamin's car looks so nice. Also, people need to be very careful because I'm pretty sure we're going to see in a second here. Someone's going to come around the corner maybe a bit too quick and
Oh
ram into the
yeah.
back of somebody else.
Yeah,
Yep,
uncool. Wow, you and the light's green as well. As you've killed it. Wow.
Now, I know I talk a lot about a commentator's curse, but that wasn't potentially what I was trying to go for there.
Oh, I don't even know who did that. Who? I wonder. Perfectly timed.
Yeah.
You couldn't have said that at a better time. It doesn't even give me an incident for it too, because they were still in the pit lane. But absolutely fantastic. What timing on... Oh yeah, someone's going to come around that corner. Bang! There they are. They've come around that corner, right? Fantastic timing. From you and the car as well.
Yeah, it's... I mean, hey, look, it's one of those things that... The way that all the cars were driving out of the pit lane, expecting it to, like, already be open... And, like, I think a lot of them just forgot where the actual line was and like, didn't actually know how many people were already queuing.
Yeah, what brilliant timing.
Benjamin Seiss is going to be the first man onto a flying lap in P2, I think.
No, we could probably do with track map. And let's see. Car 37 will be the first one, which is Benjamin. So let's go on board with him, shall we?
See it. Yeah, absolutely. Into turn one we go. Very hard into turn one indeed. And, you know, as I mentioned, turn one, quite tricky, but Benjamin Seiss seems to be on control with it. And we're going to see how Benjamin takes these hairpins, how he likes to do it. Now, obviously, there are going to probably be lots of differing lines, lots of people throwing maybe later apexes or doing double apexes through some of the corners. You've got to be careful on the inside of that corner as well on the kink. It is flat out in these P2s, but if you clip the grass on the inside, you're going to find yourself in a world of trouble very quickly, as we now go back onto the oval after this corner. It's got to get on the power quite slowly here as well. It is very easy to unsettle the car. The rear end wants to be coming around the entire time, and our gyro is now gonna very much cause us to have to tilt our heads a little as we respect the banking here at Daytona, popping it up into 6th gear, going very, very fast down these main straights as we brake very late into the bus stop chicane, going down only 2 gears, trying to make sure we don't pick up an off-track on the left-hand side exit of the curbing, and I think Benjamin, unfortunately, picked up an off-track. That's why he's so high on the banking now. Or potentially using it to maybe gain a little bit more speed down here. If you start high and you drift slightly lower, you can maybe try and use momentum to gain a bit more speed through, but we'll see where his first lap takes him, if it was valid.
Yeah,
if
no,
not,
off
maybe
track.
It was, so chances are he did pick up an off track exactly where we said it was probably going to be, right there on the bus stop chicane, because it looked pretty flawless elsewhere, and look at that car. That is stunning, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
Benjamin, take a bow, whoever designed Ben's car, by the way. Like, if it was himself or someone else. Like, you've done a cracking job on that.
Yeah, look at
I don't know who it is, but I want to...
Oh, the helmet matches. Look at that. The helmet matches inside the car.
Oh, yeah. You've got it. You've got it.
That is... Kick up some dust, yeah, why not? Wow.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
But Izzo, once again, proving to everyone, he's out here, and he is looking for... Well, he's out here looking for blood, really, isn't he? Like, he wants to win this race, and, you know, there are obviously a couple of other notable names that we should take a look at. Labate as well, obviously, up there. Same with Izzo. They're both going to be very competitive, and if they can get the slipstream together, then obviously those times are going to be very hard to match. Especially, like, the other thing as well, right? Like, we mentioned about the team strategy and how potentially, you know, if you have a teammate with you that you can run the draft with, it's something that if you two are very close in lap times, Actually, I think the draft can almost be a little bit. You may find that it's actually a little bit more detrimental to stick in the draft because you end up catching your teammate and then you're not able to really like get past them because you're both so similar on speed everywhere else that it's just like the slipstream that's really affecting your lap time, and it almost pays to be the slower of the two drivers and get the benefit of the slipstream without having to like back off slightly into the corners. You can just sort of gun it full throttle. And maybe that's something that these guys will do. Like, they'll focus on, right, where do we need the slipstream? Let's time it so that when you're out of the slipstream, or, like, when you're going into a corner, what I'll do is I'll just let you through. Pretty much. And, you know, we'll see whether or not anybody does that, as James has put himself up into pole position right now, and done a 131.6, and what a time that was.
Doesn't even that look great? Look at the orange stripes on that.
You do love a tiger theme, don't you?
Oh, I love a theme with some orange, and it does look great, doesn't it? Look at that. I can't admit that I want to change the colour because it's nearly winter, isn't it? So I'm tempted for the new season to change the colour of my race car, and I've told everyone I want to change the blue bit to green, and everyone's told me no. But everyone told me it would look bad how I've done it in the first place, and everyone says it looks good. So now I'm really tempted to change it. But I just keep seeing everybody's cars each week, and I'm like, that looks good, that looks good, I like that, that looks good. But I can never quite pick, because look, for example, this looks great too. That's green, white, and that looks great. Max as well. Maxes are detailed as hell. If we see Maxes, you can't see it too much, but as soon as we get a close shot, just the what's it called, the shark fin on the shark fin, isn't it? That the detail level on his shark fin is insane, which I hope that the camera will do it justice, but I don't think it quite will, but maybe a little bit. But it's just so good. Hopefully if the right height light will hit it, we'll be able to see it properly. I wonder if through here if we can. It's just, yeah, look at that, just proper nice detail. With it's just lovely. Gotta love a good livery. Gotta love it.
There it is. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. I will say, I think the LMP2 cars, in terms of like a canvas to paint on for you livery designers out there, it's got to be one of the better cars to do it for, because like you can really get creative with those cars.
Yeah, got quite a lot of surface there, haven't you, really?
Yeah, and not only that, the surface area is quite dynamic as well. Like, there's not a lot of just like flat planes. Obviously, you've got the shark fin to where you could do some really like intricate detail stuff. But you also have like quite a lot of other like points that just sort of stick out and could potentially be used as like a way to, you know, create something a bit more unique.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, the wheel covers, just on the front and the back, can be used to create something that's a little bit niche. Obviously the wing end plates as well. You can add all sorts to those. You know, you can add nationalities. You could add things to differentiate between different drivers. You know, you've got a world of things to play with, and I mean, that anti-stall racing car looks pretty good, if we don't say so ourselves.
Yes. Let's not push too hard for it, but let's just mention it quickly. Doesn't it look great?
I will say, though, I wish the number plate was blue, not red, but that's that's me being an elitist, and LMP2 number plates should always be blue. I'm just saying. It might fit with the theme, but I'm just saying. Yeah.
Are we saying that?
Blue number plates on LMP2.
Oh, is that how it works, is it? Oh, I see.
Yeah, red is LMP1, blue is LMP2. That's how it's always been, that's how it always will be, and always should be. I will refuse to take any other answer. Because you look at like everybody else in LMP2 and it's blue number.
Oh, Benjamin's had a found the wall as we've gone past his stricken car. Sadly, it's just told me that he's left the pits. Am I not live? I am, so I wonder why that is. But yeah, he's just left the pits, not had a crash, but he's just left the pits apparently. I wonder if it will show us. Let's have a little look. Is this? Oh, him leaving in the pits is crashing, so fantastic. And that's unfortunate. What's he done here then? Is he's just taken? So we saw him take too much curb and get a off track. Does he take? Sorry, not too much curb, too much grass. Same thing. Ooh, yeah, but this time he hits the bump and finds the wall.
So, reading a couple of the comments. Big boss man, Kevin. Welcome in, by the way. We love reading your comments. Obviously, everybody get involved in the chat when you can. Drop us a like as well. Drop us a follow. We love you all. But Kevin, you said that I'm putting some design decisions in question. No, I'm telling you how it is in the rulebooks. When you're designing a livery for a car and you're talking about the number plates have specific instructions on what colors they are and aren't allowed to be, and that every class has the same color number plates. It is a way for both marshals on track to be able to identify. Obviously, we don't need to worry about that as much in sim.
Well,
But
nice
also
little
for
lock
us
up.
commentators.
What a lock up there that was. And a drift as well
that
from
was a bit
Kevin.
close.
Lock up, we had everything there. Lock up, oversteer, drifted, nearly at the wall. A lot went on in that corner. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, of course, marshals need to know. That's a lovely helmet design as well. And inside there, more oversteer.
Kevin, mate, I don't know what you're doing to that car, but
He's holding on to it, is what he's doing. Just
maybe Kevin needs to take some like ballet lessons or something. Learn how to be a bit more gentle on the throttle.
no, just turn the traction up. You're right. Oh, he's gonna get hit. He does get it.
Yeah, that's not a good look. But going back to the number plate thing, it helps for obviously us as commentators to quickly differentiate between different classes. Like, if we had any LMP1 cars in here, obviously we don't, but if we did, obviously there are some in the iRacing service, it would be a lot easier for us to tell who was who without having to, you know, look and get that sort of... Like, we could literally just have a brief look at the car, see the color of the number plate, and know what class they're in, right? Like, we don't have to then look for, you know, a specific car number to figure out what class they're in or anything like that. Obviously, there are a whole load of other things that can help us to identify things like that, but that's one that is very obvious, sticks out no matter what the car livery is. So, you know, it has its purpose.
My question is, if there's some LMP2s that don't beat the GT3s here in qualifying, where do they start?
They will start at the back of the LMP2 field.
Interesting. Okay, there are. Benjamin's just got PA. I was about to say he hadn't yet set a time to actually manage to get on the board to be in front of a few of the cars. So he's done it now, but yeah, there was... I do believe, actually, P17 at the moment is about 3rd or 4th in the GT3 field.
Yeah. And it's... As I say, it's a little bit concerning when you're in an LMP2 and you are slower than a GT3, because you should be around about 10 seconds a lap quicker. If not 9 seconds at least quicker. But, you know, I can understand that some people may have, you know, traffic and first out laps and all the rest of it to deal with.
Yeah.
So it's not all set in stone that they have to be X amount of seconds faster, otherwise they're a bad driver or whatever. No, not at all. It's just what you would expect to see on an average of two drivers of similar skill in, you know, the different classes. Yeah. This is what, like, ultimate pace would be, sort of difference-wise.
As we say that, the driver we were talking about is now P15 and has done a time that is equal to those around them. So... yeah. So obviously, just needed to get a lap where there was maybe some traffic, which is interesting to say when there's no GT3s out on there, but there's still a lot of LMP2s.
Yeah, absolutely. 17 LMP2s, which I believe is the most that we've seen so far this season. So it's great to see everyone turning out and really getting involved and putting on a show for everyone else who's watching, obviously. We absolutely love to see people tuning in, watching, and following along with their drivers and their favourite drivers as well. We see some support for both Van der Lands in there and Goetze. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Obviously, Alex, if you could let me know if I butchered that name, then absolutely let me know, because I wanna get better. But also keep in mind I'm British and we don't pronounce names correctly.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah.
might take us a couple of attempts to to get it right. But that's why, that's why people in the comments shout at us, right? Like, they need to let us know.
Yeah, I'd wanted the TCR guy to shout me. Who I kept calling him Stefan. Stefan. Because it was spelled like that. So I thought, because obviously it's just Stephen. But spelled differently to how you would normally spell Stephen. I was like, got it wrong. But as qualifying is coming to a close, I think everyone's on their last laps now. There's a few cars. LMP2 qualifying went pretty quick.
It always seems to, though, doesn't it? Yet they have exactly the same amount of time. It just seems to be... Oh, Akon's livery, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
go on, son. That's not English too. I'll just say that you got it right. Well, Alex, hey, we try. We try our best. Obviously, the drivers can let us know then, in that case.
So that was
we do have the LMP2 Championship standings up, Wes.
Yeah, that was the standings just before qualifying. I'm sure it's just changed, but of course Benjamin is leading the way with a little bit of a gap, 43 points. It won't be that now. I think Izzo did just out qualify, didn't he? So it may be a little close. Benjamin in P6. Actually, a lie though. Izzo did out qualify him just about, so that gap will come down a little bit. But I'm sure Benjamin will still be top because James took pole, which might be his first pole. So one to James, which is currently, where is he in the championship? P10. So a bit of a difference, I say, going into the qualifying. You wouldn't have said that James would take pole, but there you go. It's always good to see a new driver on pole, and well, the championship leader down to P6. That's always good to see that it's not going to be a walk in the park, this championship. I'll tell you that now.
The other thing as well is, I think in a lot of different races that I think the way that the track is, if, for example, right, you're in LMP2, okay, and the main thing you do within iRacing is the special events. Now, if that's your primary focus, you've driven around Daytona a lot, and I mean a lot. You've driven in the 24 hours of Daytona. You've probably done a couple of other events at Daytona. You've probably done officials in Daytona, prepping for it. You've done goodness knows how much of practice to get into the mindset of the 24-hour race. So I think what we'll see is actually a lot of those drivers who are big fans of those bigger endurances actually come in here and be very competitive, where normally they may not in a circuit that doesn't have special events quite in the same way. For example, if you look at...
Did you just see, as I just the only one that just saw Hakon have a crash with a GT3 in the background, just casually? Can't wait. If you didn't see it, go back after this and watch the stream, just for this moment of watching that, just casually, as you're talking nice and calmly. Just a massive crash in the background. Absolutely huge. Not even properly on camera, just sort of to the left. It's like massive crash. I'm like, okay, that's how we're going to go today, is it?
I literally just caught that back on stream.
Huge crash.
That was going into the hairpin. Was yeah. I'd like to think that my cursing isn't quite that bad for these drivers, but apparently I can do it even if I'm not paying attention.
Yeah.
But your qualifying results are on the screen for you here in LMP2. James Ebram did take your pole position for the ATRS Esports team with a 131.639, which wasn't even really matched in terms of lap time. 0.3 is your gap from P1 to P2, and then it gets incredibly close between P2 up to P6. Well, technically P7 if you and P8 if you want to go that far. Obviously, it's only 0.4 difference, so if we're saying that James Ebram and Lorenzo is a big gap, then obviously there's going to be a pretty big gap between Lorenzo and Frank. But anyway, Lorenzo and Izzo, obviously Leo Racing teammates, you would expect them to be pretty close, and then obviously Carlo as well in there. All around similar sort of lap times, only a 0.1 difference between Carlo and Lorenzo, and then Izzo and Lorenzo were also about 0.05 off, which is again could just be the difference in slipstream. Like that's literally all that could be, and if that's the case, then well, Lorenzo just had the better time of it, which it's just fair enough. It happens. Ocon puts himself between a Leo Racing Team sandwich, and as we mentioned before, Carlo Labatti puts himself in P5 with Benjamin Seiss there for German Sim Racing is in P6, 5/10 off of what James Ebram was able to do for the ATRS Esports team. And in P7, we've got Dylan van der Lans for No Limits Sim Racing, with Frank Smits coming up behind him in P8. Max Voss in P9 is where we start to see the gaps get a little bit bigger. Was 1.2 seconds off of what James Ebram was able to do and 5/10 off of what Frank Smits was able to do. Sebastian Van Den was also, if I can pull up his full name, I'm going to be as respectful as I can be. Sebastian Van den Heuvel, that was it. Always forget what his name was, as it doesn't seem to always appear on our timing screens, which is not amazing, and we do apologize every time to him. It's it's not quite good, but hey, we're trying our best. Either way, Sebastian Van den Heuvel did round out the P10 for LMP2, and again, was incredibly close to what Max Voss was able to do. Again, could have just been a difference in slipstream, and that's really all it comes down to for a lot of these positions. Aiden Young was in P11 as well, and yeah, LMP2, once again, pretty close in a lot of areas, and then it drops and then gets close again for about the midfield, and then drops off again near the back. And again, similar sort of story in GT3, just a lot closer for the first couple of cars. I mean, the Leo Racing team, I mean, talk about, all being consistent with each other. I mean, how do you like it? All four Leo Racing team drivers, pretty much one behind the other. Going from P2 down to P5, with Raul Suarez rounding out the pole position for the Aspar Esports team with his... I can't remember who it was that had a teammate who he was drafting with, but yeah, incredible job. Obviously, Porsche rounding out basically P1 to P6. All of them Porsches in GT3. Ryan Martin and Adam Hedgecock, the next fastest guys in both Ferraris. Then it's another Porsche in Tim Perry, followed off by, finally, the first of our Mercedes in Christian Glamsetter. And that will round out your top 10 in GT3. So, as we said, there is a lot of Porsches at the top of GT3. Porsche looks like they're going to be one of the fastest marquees here for us in GT3. But the Ferraris putting in a good shift against them as well. So, it'll be interesting to see if anyone else can potentially try and challenge them. Obviously, we know the Mercedes are going to be quick anywhere that relies on purely power, which is almost surprising because I thought that the Mercedes would be a little bit closer to the Porsches here, but apparently not. As the safety car will lead us off for our... It's just going to be a short, quite a short rolling lap here. Have we finally decided to do a short rolling start? Is that a change that they didn't let us know?
Yeah, that's definitely short, isn't it? They're already on the back last turns. We'll just quickly scroll through some of the, as we already said, top 10 for each one. So we'll just have the grid scroll through for everybody, so you can just see exactly where everybody does line up. But yeah,
Find your favorite driver, support your favorite driver, cheer for them in the chat if you can. Throw up a couple of emotes as well, why not? Give them a bit of the firework emote, bit of the fire emoji if you're so inclined. Give us a fire emoji as well, as we're going to get ready to kick things off with the LMP2 start here into the turn number 1 we go. We'll have James Ebram lead us away. We're waiting for that green flag to drop.
Green flag.
And the start is good. We have the green flag being waved. James Ebram is already off to a good start. And look at just how many LMP2s are flying their way down into turn one. So many cars side by side already. And trying to just get as much room as they possibly can. All the cars weaving all over the track to try and find some sort of space that they can slot into, as it looks as though everyone came off pretty clean. Doesn't look like there was too much. And just as I say that, looks like maybe in the background there was something going on there. But let's quickly cut to the GTs and check how the start was for the GTs. Looked like the GT racing was also relatively clean. Looks like everyone's already pretty single file, as I'm not sure what LMP2 that is coming out of the pit lane. But indeed, they are just going to run away, so we don't have to worry about that too much. As the GT3s, look at how many Porsches there are all the way. P1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as Ryan goes around the outside of the kink to try and make that move stick. And wow, he manages to get it done and make it work into the braking zone of the hairpin. That is a very brave move indeed, especially lap 1 cold tires. You need to be careful of those types of things. However, Ryan now is going to be in a little bit of a tricky situation, as he doesn't have a teammate to draft with, and the guys ahead of him maybe a little bit too far in front. So maybe Ryan has jumped the gun just a little bit too much here, and he's going to get attacked back up into the bus stop. Luigi very much using that draft game the best that he can. Ryan needs to hold the inside line here. Knows that it will turn to the outside line for the bus stop. Both drivers go very late on the brakes. Ryan, the latest of the late breakers, and indeed does manage to hold that position. But for how much longer into turn one are we going to see a change for P6 here between Ryan Martin and Luigi Nespolino, as his teammate Adam Hedgecock is behind him? Tim Perry also in the background needs to be careful that all these drivers aren't going to get a little bit too close. We may see here some NASCAR-style slipstreaming, as Adam Hedgecock is going to try and push Ryan ahead into the lead of this race. Well, I say lead of this race, lead of this battle, I should say, into turn one. Maybe Adam's going to try and go up the inside of Luigi, and Luigi's going to, instead of gaining a position on Ryan like he probably should have, is actually going to lose out a position instead, because of just not being able to really stick around that outside. You've got Adam had the slipstream and very, very aggressive, almost push there to the outside line from Luigi, and indeed a flash of the lights from Adam. He's not happy, as you know, you wouldn't really expect him to be, but this GT3 action is already kicking off an absolute madness. Wes, what did you think of that first lap?
The cars, aren't they? They're all in big trains. They're always getting slipstream. It's all very close racing. There's just so many of them as well. And they are, the top 6 have almost sort of got away, haven't they? Sorry, top 5 have got away. And then Ryan and this little pack of cars. And behind them, there's another pack of cars as well. There's so many of them. Just, I think the gaps of 5 cars each almost. But they've all gone single file pretty quick, which is good. I'm not sure we saw how the LMP2s have gone. Somehow, Benjamin apparently has found his way to the lead.
Yeah, really not sure how Ben has managed to do that. I mean, that must have been one heck of a drive, and a little bit of a shame we didn't catch that on camera, because Ben is already up into the lead of this race. Started, when was it? I believe it was like P6, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So he's already gained 5 positions. Frank Smits also gained 5 positions. James Ebram and Lorenzo Castellani have dropped 3 positions. So we'll have to wait and see if we can figure out exactly what has happened between those guys, whether or not there's been potentially some crashes. I do see that Carlo Labate did have a crash in LMP2 and has dropped down 8 positions, so potentially something there, and Hakon has also dropped a couple as well. So maybe there's something going on there in LMP2 that we can potentially try and take a look at some point later on this race. Obviously, at the moment, there's so much action going on track that it's really, we want to try and focus on it as much as possible while it's happening. Every single driver so close going into the bus stop chicane, and it's going to mean that every driver, if you come out of the chicane still on the back end of them, I mean, you're going to be in for a big battle. As Ryan Martin is off, by the way. Ryan Martin is dropping massively down the order. No idea what happened with him. He's teleported back to the pit lane, or potentially gone into the pit lane. So in GT3, Ryan Martin has indeed dropped a few more positions, and we'll try and figure out why. We're on board with Thomas Notto. Going to see what happened with him. Did he hit that inside curb too much and has spun it, or has something else happened here?
Right, get why on it.
Oh, that is right. Martin off on the potentially spun there into the hairpin or
Ah,
through the middle of it.
can't see it sadly. Sadly, I can't find the exact crash, but all I can see is that he had spun the hairpin and would have hit the wall. Don't know if he's got a helping hand, but sadly can't find the exact replay to show you.
But not good. That does mean he is going to drop down the order quite a few positions, but I want to try and get back on board with some of these GT3 battles, because look at how close the top 5 are to each other, by the way. They are absolutely training it along in GT3. It is incredible to see so many Porsches in the same place, and every single one of them wants to be ahead of the car in front. Every single one of them. You have Leo from Favreau, then you've got Raul Suarez, then you've got Fabio, also a Leo driver, then you've got Victor, and then you have behind Victor, Luigi, who is also in a Leo racing car. So all these drivers are very much with their teammate, but their teammate is separated by a Leo car. Or, if you're not in the Leo car, you're separated with the other team. So, you know, it's going to be a constant battle here, I think, between the teammates, and this is absolutely incredible to see. I mean, talk about some amazing racing, and you've got, arguably, some of the fastest GT drivers that we've probably had in Anti-Stall, and, I mean, they're just right on top of each other, constantly. It is absolutely insane. But, yeah, Victor Roma and is trying to chase down Fabio as much as he can, but again, one thing that's always difficult to do is it's just trying to find that final place to really make the move stick. It's just so difficult in the end. And, you know, you can try it into turn 1, as I believe Davide has had a little spin, maybe, because he's just been overtaken by a couple of other cars a little bit further ahead of him, and side by side we go with between Victor and Fabio. The car number 73 is going to try and hold on through the kink, and he does manage to just get that block through. Victor going to try and go the long way around the outside, and we're going to see whether or not Davide gets incredibly close under braking as well. Maybe the Leo guy is doing a bit of a block tactic and trying to maybe get Davide back this place, but again, it's so close between these Porsches. It is absolutely insane. Every single time we look at a battle like this, it's just going to continue to get closer and closer and closer until eventually one of them decides, actually, you know what, we need to pit, and then only then will this battle stop. It's just going to keep going right until the end of the race. I'm calling it now. As a little bit further up in LMP2, we still have battles going on between Alessandro Izzo and Benjamin Saiss, as well as Castellani is also there battling, I believe, James as well on track right now. And again, it's going to be primarily on the slipstream, so we're going to have to wait and see. Is Lorenzo actually going to be able to make a move on James? It's going to get incredibly close, but they are going into the bus stop, I believe, so maybe not quite close enough this time. He's going to still stick behind James and then maybe try and go on the offensive into turn number 1. Lorenzo, again, not quite as quick as James through the bus stop. James obviously got pole position, so incredibly fast driver, we know that. Probably fast everywhere around this track. And again, if they don't figure out a way to get past James quickly, then Izzo, you're going to have to worry about the car behind you, mate, as Benjamin Saiss did finally get overtaken, as Izzo does now go up into P1. And that is obviously incredibly good for himself. Izzo wants to be in P1 at the end of the race. However, I feel like being P1 at the end of the race is going to require you to be P2 pretty much on the penultimate lap, I think, with how much the with how much that these cars are battling on track and changing positions due to slipstream. Now, Wes, I'm not sure if you're how much knowledge you've got on the oval side of things, but obviously the slipstream plays a massive factor in those races, and naturally I think that's going to cross over to here as well, obviously, as we've got this massive banking. And you know, yes, there may be things like the bus stop chicane in there to separate the oval bits, but even still, it's going to play a factor, isn't it?
Oh yeah, slipstream's going to play a massive factor, especially with these cars as well. They're really in the thick of the GT action now, aren't they? Oh, Benjamin's been held up. It's just chaotic now. But a lot of these cars perform well and act well to the slipstream, so they're going to use it. And with the finish line being where it is, it could be absolutely crucial on the last lap to get a good run. Look at it! It's going to be... Oh, Benjamin had the back out.
Benjamin got absolutely squeezed there. That was probably intentional for both those drivers to maybe even try and make the move together and block Benjamin in behind a GT and give Ben nowhere to go. And now, I don't want to say that is the tactic you should be using in your endurance races moving forward, but it's pretty smart to be able to do something like that and to be able to block the competitors in behind slower class cars, because you know, the faster class need to overtake the slower car. It is on the responsibility of the faster class to overtake the slower car. So, naturally, if you block in a faster class behind a slower car, then they're going to have to sort of sit there and wait before they can really get onto the throttle again. And it's a little bit cheeky. Maybe it should be against the rules. But I feel like, as long as it was done in a safe way, I don't have a problem with it.
Benjamin reacted really, really well there to be able to realise what was going on and hit the brakes rather than hit the GT3.
Yeah.
So it could have been a big one, and it could have been very done early. He has now lost lead and he's way off it in P4, but the crucial part is he is now still in this race rather than he could have easily been out of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, I think if you're Ben, it's frustrating, right? It's frustrating to have something like that happen. But you almost need to be like, right, it happened. I need to just shut up and get on with it, you know? I need to put my head down and I need to absolutely send it as... Oh,
wow.
That was a cool shot. That was a very cool shot. Seeing these LMP2s go side by side past the GTs. It is absolutely amazing to see. And it's so cool in endurance racing to see people... No, just about avoided it. It's incredibly close. All these LMP2s having to go around the outside of all of these GTs, up the inside of these GTs, anywhere they can find a move, really. And every single time they do so, it's just going to be adding more and more risk, almost unnecessary risk, in a lot of circumstances to, you know, potentially upset their race. Obviously, they hope it doesn't happen. I'm going to touch all the wood around my room right now to make sure that it doesn't happen and I don't curse anybody else. But you know, it's one of those things, isn't it, that when you are driving in multi-class racing, this traffic is just going to continuously come at you, and if you are in the P2s, you need to be able to get around it as fast as possible without it letting affect you. You know, through the bus stop chicane, really, you're not going to send a move on a GT through the bus stop chicane. It's not going to happen. You're going to wait until the exit and you're going to get them on the straight, or you're going to do it under braking. That's the only two places you're going to get it done. You're not going to do it through the middle. So any time you're stuck behind a GT in the middle of the bus stop chicane, you're losing seconds of time. Not even half a second. You're losing full seconds worth of time due to the amount of speed difference that these cars have. You know, the LMP2s are so downforce heavy that even on their low downforce package, they're still carrying more downforce than these GT cars could probably produce on their high downforce package, if we're being completely honest.
It's just chaotic, isn't it? There's just cars everywhere at the moment with them. The LMP2s being in the thick of things. They're just absolutely cars everywhere. It's insane. Martin Brandon's now jumped to the pits from the GT3 side of things, so something's gone wrong for him. We'll just quickly have a look while they've cleared some of the traffic. Do we? Why has the view gone to there? Can we see? Can we? Probably not see. Apparently we can't change camera angle to see what happened to Martin Brandon, sadly. So at some point he's had to jump to the pit, sadly. So we've lost another GT3 from the race.
And the other thing as well, right, is among all of this LMP traffic that we've got going on and all of the LMP drivers that are battling their way around this track, the other thing as well that we have to consider is that the GTs are also in their own race. Now, admittedly, the GT battle seems to have died down a little bit, at least for the top 7. But there are a couple of other GTs who are really close right now, like Luigi Nespolino against Tim Perry is a very, very close battle on our screens. And as you can see, literally a tenth separates them. Now, I'm not sure if Luigi and Tim are working together to try and maybe, push themselves a little bit higher up. Maybe they're playing a bit of the leapfrog game to try and push themselves a little bit closer to the back of Victor and, Fabio, Raul, Davide, and try and really catch up to those guys. But at what point, Wes, do you think as a driver, you almost need to communicate with someone who may be a rival and just say, right, we're so far off the next pack in front, should we ignore our own personal battle for now? See if we can get to the cars behind as Luigi very much Tokyo drifting it around the corner. Has to be careful the cones don't get stuck on the front end. And, yeah, that's a big off. Big off.
Yeah, well, you got a massive helping hand there. That will definitely be looked at. Oh, sadly, people are getting past, so I can't replay it for now, which is unfortunate. One of the LMP2s gave him a nice helping hand. Let's see if we can diagnose this. The LMP2 to the left is on the way. Apex of the corner. Bang, there it is.
Yeah.
Well, there goes the help element you were talking about. They're not going to be able to help each other out now. I'm not sure which LMP2 it was, but the one with damage on the front right it would be.
Yep. And I'm sure the stewards are going to look into that, as we mentioned.
Oh, there's one off.
I'm not sure what GT3 that was.
One of the Leos. It's Davide.
And Adam as well, I think, has just managed to gain a position off of that. So Adam has managed to benefit off of just keeping it clean, I think is going to be the story of this race, isn't it? As Luigi is jumping into the pit lane now, maybe just to repair some damage to his car. So, again, the other thing as well to consider is the pit lane that we have here is very, 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 very shallow. Like, you come off the banking, and you're pretty much braking the moment you come off the banking to slow it down quick enough to actually hit those marks, because it's such a fast entry into a very slow pit lane, and a pit lane that is also very long as well. So you're going to lose a lot of time here in the pit lane, and that's obviously something you want to avoid doing as much as you can. And again, this LMP2 battle is just going to continue going on probably until one of these guys decides I've had enough and I'm going to go into the pit lane and I'm going to chill for a sec, because it's just you don't want to lose slipstream. I think is the big thing, isn't it? You can't afford to lose the slipstream, as Castellani has now just set the fastest lap of the race with a 1:31.923. And Wes, if you can remember off the top of your head, mate, what was the qualifying pole lap time? Can you remember?
I think it was a 31.9. No. Look, we can cheat.
We can cheat.
31.6. There we go.
So, 31.6. These guys just did a 1:31.9 in race trim.
Yeah, they're on it.
Terrible tyres. Probably, still half a tank of fuel. And welcome in, everybody, to the bots.
Oh, yeah, wow, look at that. Right, look down to my left for a second, and wow, yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be a stream on YouTube without a couple of bots, right?
Yeah, they're all quite spread out now in GT3, aren't they? Look at that. They've spread out massively compared to the LMP2, which continue to fight.
And again, that's something that in GT3 you'd expect them to keep actually closer than what the LMPs are able to do, because the LMP2s are obviously very aero dependent, and naturally, when you're following another car, you have less aero. That's just how physics works. Now, in GTs, it's not quite as severe. You can, as Benjamin Site is, by the way, in the pit lane already, so no one stop for Benjamin today. We're probably gonna hazard a guess. If he's already pitting with 20 minutes in.
Oh, yeah. Quite early, isn't it?
So,
Was he involved in a incident, maybe? Or quite
he's
early, isn't
undercutting.
it? Oh, is he? Massively, yeah?
Yeah, I reckon he's gonna. I reckon he's gonna try the undercut this time. I reckon he's tired of trying to go for the overcut, and instead he's gonna go for the undercut. See if he can make that work. Because it is something that, as we say, like the way that the strategy works, obviously with the lower fuel tank than what these guys are probably used to. Obviously, if they do like 24-hour races and stuff, then the strategy develops in such a way that I think you think of it in a similar sort of mindset, right? Of, right, what's the longest stint I can do? Like, can I actually get in there and can I do a double stint? Like, am I actually physically able to do that? Or can I actually, like, can I single stint it? You know, do I have to pit twice? I want to try and avoid doing that where I can. And if I can't, then what's actually the fastest way to do it? I want to spend as little time in the pit lane as possible. And I want to spend as much time as I can out there on the circuit. And again, now we're seeing a lot of people responding to what Benjamin was able to do on his time. So again, if they're responding to the undercut, we're going to see how well it works out for Benjamin. Potentially, if he managed to find out a nice pocket of air, and this is one thing I want to quickly double check, is where is Ben on track right now? Because he's a couple seconds up the road, isn't he? So these guys are all coming into the pit lane, and Ben is just coming past our GT leader right now. So Ben has probably come out in a really good situation, actually, of where he doesn't have a lot of GT traffic around him anymore. So, provided he can get his foot down, he should probably overtake a lot of the guys in the pit lane. And is he going to overtake the likes of Castellani and Grebstad? Now, Castellani, I believe, is already out of the pit lane, so he won't be overtaking him. But he will be incredibly close to Hakon, going into the hairpin. There's Hakon, there's Benjamin, and it is fight on. Now, Benjamin obviously has the warmer tyres. Does have a little bit less fuel as well, because he's already burnt a lap of fuel. But he is on the much warmer tyres. His tyres are already up to temperature. He doesn't have to worry about that. He just hits the loud pedal and goes, whereas Hakon needs to get back into it, get back into the rhythm. Now, obviously, these guys probably aren't going to be changing tyres. You know that tyres can probably do at least a double stint on regular fuel loads, and a regular fuel load, for those of you who are curious, is around about 30 to 35 minutes here in an LMP2 car. So the fact that we're only doing about 22 on 65%, yeah, I'd say that tracks, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Fine, won't they?
yeah, the tyres, again, the tyres will do about an hour, as Benjamin was incredibly close to Hakon coming out of the bus stop chicane. I was very curious because it almost looked like Ben was going to ram into the back of Hakon, but we've seen how good Benjamin already is on a wreck avoidance. So now we're going to see, is Benjamin and Hakon going to continue fighting, or are they just going to play a bit of leapfrog and try and catch themselves up to the cars in front? Because again, this is the other thing you have to consider. As much as you want to gain the position off of your rival, you also need to respect the fact that if you keep battling, you're going to slow each other down. And yes, you might have the slipstream, but if you can use that to leapfrog each other, then you'll probably get into a situation where you can actually get onto the back of the cars in front, like, for example, Dylan van der Lands, who is ahead of this battle, but also use it to catch up to the back of Smits and Castellani and Izzo, and catch up to the top three, you know? Because Izzo, as well, the other thing that we have to consider is Izzo's got no slipstream help. He's out in a pretty much world of his own in terms of LMP2 timings. And the only person he really has to worry about is his teammate. Now, again, Izzo could play it smart, slow down and let Castellani you know, potentially grab a hold of the slipstream, and then those two can bounce it back and forth between each other. But again, that's only really if Castellani can prove that he can keep up with Izzo, because if he can't, then that whole idea doesn't work. So you almost need to find someone you're very, very close to, as going on board that shot. Although we got incredibly close to that GT if we were Hakon, and again, incredibly close to the GT we go. I know these guys want to try and take the shortest line possible, but there's short, and then there's cutting off his wing mirror.
Oh.
But here we go into turn one. Hakon almost looked like he was going to make that move on Dylan van der Lands, and indeed he does go for it. And I don't know who car number 55 is, whether or not that's a back marker.
Yeah, no, it's Frank.
He's very much causing this battle to be insanely close. And yeah, Frank, Dylan, Hakon, Benjamin, all on the same piece of tarmac right now, all battling it out for position as hard as they possibly can. And again, if you're Benjamin right now, are you looking at this battle and going, I just need to get through here as quickly as I can because this looks messy? This looks like it's going to be messy. Or are you thinking, actually, I need to kind of just stick with one of them, and if one of them makes a move, I almost need to be close enough to where I can capitalize on that opportunity and go for the same move? Because that's the other thing as well, is if you're behind these cars, eventually you may break slipstream.
Oh, he's gone for it. Hakon's gone for it.
There's so many cars
with
3 wide into the bus stop and managed to just dive off the back end, and Hakon manages to just hold on to that LMP2 car as he goes bucking and bouncing over the bus stop chicane. Benjamin also now incredibly close and able to keep right onto the back of Hakon. Now, is Benjamin just going to sit behind, or is he actually going to go for the move? Because, again, Benjamin knows the importance of slipstream around here. He's probably using it to save fuel. Now, if he can, then that undercut is probably going to work beautifully in his favor, because he's not going to have to worry about the likes of, you know, if he has to save one more lap of fuel to get onto the same strategy as the guys ahead of him, then he can absolutely do that while sitting behind these guys. You know, he can lift off down the back straight and just ease into the braking zones of the bus stop. You know, he doesn't have to be going flat out when he has the slipstream. And I think that's the difference in why he came in a lap early, because earlier on we saw Benjamin was sort of, maybe not necessarily in a race by himself, but he wasn't in the slipstream as deep as he is right now, you know?
Yeah.
So, again, that's another factor that we have to play a part in, and it's going to continue being that way, I think, because of just the way Daytona is as a circuit. And the fact that slipstream is so, so, so powerful around here. It is insane. Again, Hakon does finally get the move done.
Oh, he's not fully over.
I was going to say, he needs to be careful, because Dylan van der Lands was going to go for it on the exit.
And push him.
Very much. Yeah, he's almost doing a NASCAR-style bump draft with him. He is bump drafting with him. But Dylan, you need to be careful, mate, because that could be your front splitter gone. That could cause some horrendous damage further down the field. And again, he's still pushing him, and look at what it's doing with Benjamin's size. Benjamin's not able to get close enough. So the pushing, while it works, I'm not sure how much damage Dylan's going to get from that.
Yeah, these are sensitive cars.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been risking something like that. Because if you damage these cars, right, and you miss a, you know, if you miss a louver on the front of the car, then that's probably a big reduction in downforce that it's really going to affect you going through corners like the bus stop and the kink. And you might not even think about it at the time, but then you'll realize that the more you keep doing it, the more likely there is to be damage. You know, these cars aren't like the NASCARs you see going around the oval sections, where they have the big plastic bumper on the back and the big plastic, bumper on the front, I should say, and plastic rear ends that sort of crumple in as you sort of get close, you know? So it's like, you don't have that same level of give in those cars. And again, these GTs need to pick a line when the LMPs are coming.
Oh well, there's a line missing the chicane. Is a good line. He's had to go He's actually straight up crashed, hasn't he? He hasn't gone around it. He's gone straight into it, I think.
Oh dear. Thomas, let's see what happened here. I think he just got a little bit spooked. He tried to stay low, thought the cars would go around him. They
Benjamin's
didn't.
to his left. He says he crashed. No, does he go around him? He does go around him. Oh, it's very slow around him, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredibly slow around them. Well, the thing is, right, is if you go straight on through there, it's almost like if you go straight on at the Monza chicane into turn 1 at much higher speed. So you need to make the corner that much tighter to compensate for the difference, you know? As we have a battle here for P8 overall. Well, almost P7 overall, as Adam Hedgecock does dive all the way up the inside of Christian Glamser and does make that move stick. So again, Christian is going to drop back a little bit, and Adam needs to be careful here as blocked in that LMP2 car, and that LMP2 driver, I'm sure,
Max.
is... I mean, he's going to be saying things in that cockpit, isn't he? Probably things we can't repeat, because it's going to be bleep, 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 bleep type stuff, you know, but, or maybe Max is actually quite a calm driver, and he's just like, great, really?
I reckon the first one. We don't.
It's a lot of bleeps.
Well, I don't know. Oh, yes.
So,
yeah, I don't know a lot of calm drivers, especially when the GT3, for example, a slower class has got in their way. I don't think it'd be like, oh, it's right, mate. I'll wait for you. No, it's definitely lots of bleeping. Like when the bus doesn't turn up, it's not like, oh, what a shame. There's a lot of bleeping going on as Dylan again attacks Hakon. He's not attacking him. Sorry, he's pushing him. He is pushing him.
And again, look at what it's able to do. Like, Benjamin Slice can't actually keep up with these guys when they do that. Like, and not as much, right? So, like, the slipstream that Ben has is nowhere near as much as it could be. But again, I'm just worried that Dylan's going to damage his car doing it, and then all of a sudden, he's going to just lose some top-end speed, or he's going to lose some acceleration, or he's going to lose some grip in the corners, and all of a sudden, Benjamin has an easy target, right? So, I'm not sure if it's worth risking it. Or whether it's just potentially easier just to play the leapfrog game and just switch positions, you know? Just one of you starts out in front, one of you overtakes the other one, lets the guy who was in front slip back, and then you just follow each other for a lap, do the same thing again on the back straight. So you switch, maybe like into the bus stop or something, so that it's not as much time loss, right? And then you just keep switching back and forth, just constantly. And that will do the similar sort of effect as what the push will do, but you're doing it in such a way that you're not actually allowing people like Benjamin to overtake you.
There's four of them. There's four of them. I don't see why they can't really do that. They are losing time to the leaders as well. They're now 7 seconds off top 2.
And look at Castellani's last lap at 132.9. These guys were doing 133s. Akon's just managed to do a 132.9 now as well, that he doesn't have to worry about much in the way of traffic. So I'm wondering whether or not that second lap difference is due to traffic, primarily, and not actually this guy just had a better lap.
Yeah, well, better lap in terms of catching the traffic at the wrong point.
Yeah. But in terms of, like, if they both had clean air, would it actually be a second difference? I don't think so. Not at this level.
Oh, what a lovely corner that was from Hakon there. He's drifting out of it while clipping a bit of the dirt as well. It's just absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? Can have a little look at the GT3s. I believe they're staying pretty similar, as there's still Porsches at the front. But
yeah, Porsches are very much dominating the GTs as far as the results are concerning so far, and it's I don't want to say it's sad to see. It's just, I think it's surprising to see just how many Porsches are dominating at the top. And, you know, the BMWs as well, they're not really up near the top as well, and the Mercedes again.
oh, it's a spin! That's a spin for Adam on his own!
No, Adam Edgecock.
Sorry, Adam. I didn't mean to watch you while you did that. On his own, I'd say. Didn't get any helping hand there, but he's got back going. But Yeah, look at that. The Porsche, and then it's an Audi and then a Ferrari, and sorry, an Audi, Mercedes, sorry, and then Mercedes, just loads and loads of them. Not much, no way of mix of cars, is it? There's quite obvious that it's Porsche or Mercedes with a few Ferraris and BMWs thrown in. Do you think we have lost
one Lamborghini?
How many cars have we lost? We have lost, I think, 4 cars from... Oh, sorry, more than that. But I think four from the race, but a few didn't take the start. Ryan Martin didn't return after his crash where he hit the wall. I'm not sure if he did get a helping hand, but clearly had enough damage not to continue.
And it is a little bit of a shame to see, especially for Ryan, because he is so quick, isn't he? And
yeah.
he's a driver that I think can actually take it to the Porsche group. I think the Porsche group by themselves are insanely fast. It almost goes without saying that...
Davide has jumped to the pits, apparently. So, when it says that, does it mean he just crashed or what? Let's see if I can actually get that one. He is one of the Porsches. He was in the top 6, and it doesn't look like I have that one, sadly. But he's just left the pits as well, so he did definitely jump to the pits, which is a shame. Does it show me the pass that Thomas did on him at least? No, sorry, we can't see it, but there's been a moment for Davide apparently. Let's go have a look at the GT3 field, see if he is gone or not. Let's have a little look. Is he still behind Tim Perry? No, he's gone. So we have lost one of the Porsches, have fallen. Not sure how, if he got a helping hand or not. Doesn't look like he did from the notes I've got. I don't think we've lost a... we haven't lost a GT3, another GT3 or anything, have we? Seems like he may have spun on his own or found the wall. No LMP2s have disappeared either or gone to the pits. So that looks like that's sadly how that's gone about things now. Go back to the LMP2s as they're extremely close. Apparently we can't. Let's go now. Benjamin in the same place he was a couple of laps ago.
And again, Dylan van der Lands, Frank, and Hakon, pretty much all in the same place they were a couple laps ago. They are starting to switch positions, I have noticed. Hakon and Smits specifically, chopping and changing sometimes. So Hakon has actually managed to overtake both drivers. So once Hakon finally got ahead of Dylan, he managed to then make a pass on Frank, and he's now starting to push away from the group as well. So that's something that Hakon, I'm pretty sure, now knows that he was faster than the group because he is starting to pull away slowly. Admittedly, with the slipstream, it's not going to be as quick as you'd probably expect it to, because if you think about the way that the slipstream works, it's almost like a bungee cord now, or rather an elastic band, right? Like, they're going to allow you to go so far, and then it's just going to snap you right back to him and going into, going onto the slipstream areas of the circuit. And, through the corners, it might build a gap, but then you're just going to snap straight back to him on the straights again. So it's almost very difficult to break the toe around here. And that's something that I think a lot of these drivers are going to want to try and do, obviously. Because you know how good slipstream is, especially if you're in a P2 and you're seeing how effective it is right now. And if you can break that slipstream, you can break that toe, then... Sorry, getting, with all the nighttime going on right now, brain has decided it's sleep time. But, no, in terms of, like, slipstream, as I was saying, like, if you can break it, you can then actually start to run away, which is good, right? You want to try and run away, you want to try and catch up to the cars ahead, but you won't have the slipstream assistance to continue to catch up to the guys ahead of you, which is... And, jeez, these LMPs and these GTs are... I mean, they're doing miracle work to avoid being as close as they are, I think. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, they're getting a little close, but yeah, I am shocked there hasn't been a few more, I'd say. Looking at some of them, how close they are being, but yeah. Getting a little... I think it'll get better as the season goes on, won't it? People get used to it, hopefully.
Absolutely. It's one of those things, isn't it, that I think if you're used to it, and you're used to this level of competition, and you're getting used to the multi-class element of it, but you'll be able to, as we mentioned sort of at the start of the season, you'll start to know which drivers overtake in certain corners and which drivers won't. Like you'll pick out the passive and aggressive prototype drivers, and likely in prototype you'll pick out oh no, Benjamin, what happened to Ben? Did he try and go for a pass? He went to try and go for a pass on a GT.
Oh,
The GT didn't see him.
That's gonna be big, isn't it? That's pretty
Yeah.
broken at the rear left there for our championship leader.
Benjamin Seiss, a little bit unlucky. And I'm sure Ben is going to be absolutely fuming about that one.
Yeah,
It was a bit of an unnecessary contact, wasn't
yeah,
it,
it's
really?
on a straight by that point, isn't it? So I think the GT3 hasn't seen him. He's seen the other three that's gone past, but not managed to see him, sadly. And again, more pushing down the back straight. This time with Frank now. He swapped the drive.
And it's so weird to see, isn't it? Like, yeah. You would never see an LMP2 driver pushing another LMP2 driver on a road course. Like, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
As we see the lovely Porsche iRacing safety car, by the way.
Yeah, lovely to see.
Shout out to that Porsche.
Oh, so Benjamin is also in. So he's not too far off of his estimated stop time, I'd say, if the Lorenzo's just pitted. So
yeah,
but damn it, if he doesn't have a fast repair, then that's, race done, isn't it?
Well, again, depends on if he picked up a lot of damage from it. Obviously, you'd expect him to pick up a couple of seconds worth of damage, but how much damage exactly, I'm not entirely sure. Because yeah, it's just one of those unfortunate things that we can't ever tell how much damage that you're gonna have in a race like this. You're gonna have probably, as I say, it's because iRacing doesn't show us the visual damage in a way that's like obvious. It's very hard to pick out. And then once they do have some visual damage, it's also difficult to say whether or not that damage is actually going to be worth, like, a minute or, 10 minutes worth of repairs, because iRacing just doesn't feel consistent, I think, is the one thing we can say. Now, not to say that it's bad, obviously. It's, it's still doing its job, but it just feels like some impacts that should take the car out of the race completely leave it absolutely fine, and then other cars or other contacts that should have done pretty much nothing seem to just total the car, and you're left sort of scratching your head and wondering what went wrong.
He's still in the pits now, so I'd say that's, well, it's podium over, isn't it? So he will pick up some points, I'm sure, but basically race over for Benjamin. I think he might be out of the pits now, if I'm not wrong. Let's have a little look. He returned. No, he's still in. So, yeah, that's race done and dusted. And apparently Max has jumped to the pits as well. Can we see Max's, I wonder? No, it doesn't look like we can see Max's. I wonder if he actually has had a crash or not. But Max isn't even in the pits. No, Max is out. There you go. Max was in the pits. So he rejoins. He's now in P15 apparently. So, yeah, he would have had a moment somewhere that he's at the pit for. It says he's P15, but it says number 7 on the light, doesn't it? So
yeah, the lights will only update when they cross the start-finish line every time. So
now
that's probably he came into the pits P7, and now he's left the pits, and it's probably going to be like P15 when he actually crosses the line, or maybe P9 when he crosses the line.
Yeah, I think
there have been a lot of LMP2s that have had some trouble.
Yeah.
Also, Frank Smits, I'm pretty sure, was pushing Dylan, by the way, into turn 1, as those guys have now all swapped and changed positions.
There you go again.
As going into turn 1, very close to the GT traffic once again, catching them at all the wrong parts of the circuit, you'd think. And yep, indeed, once again, we've got Frank and Dylan keeping incredibly close, as if they were attached by a tow bar, I think.
Yeah, at this point, yeah, definitely. They have been towing each other along nicely. Yep. Hop on the trailer, mate. I'll take you for a bit.
and then we'll swap over and
Yeah, I'll drive for a
I'll
lap.
go on the back
Yeah,
of your trailer.
that's what they've been doing, helping each other out, pulling each other along. Not really helping lap time wise. They are losing time still to Izzo in the lead, but they've been kept. Well, they're fighting for the podium now though, so it could get ugly near the end here. We've got 15 to go. Could start to get a bit more, elbows out, because at the moment they're being pretty polite to each other, allowing them through. But on the last lap, I'm sure they're not going to allow each other through as easy.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Castellani, Hakon, and Labatti are all pit, by the way. For those of you keeping track on who has done what in terms of pit stops, we're looking at, so out of your top 5, only Lorenzo has pit twice. So your top 4 still need to pit one more time. And then Lorenzo has pit for his final stop. So Lorenzo is in the net lead of this race. Obviously, we don't know whether or not he'll come out ahead or behind Alessandro Izzo when Izzo comes out of the pits. So we'll have to wait and see what that looks like. And then in terms of further down the order, obviously, Frank and Dylan battling together as hard as they are might mean that when they come out of the pits, that they will be probably down behind where Hakon is, and probably a few seconds off of that time as well. Maybe even behind Carlo Labatti as well, possibly even Max Voss, depending on their pit stop time. Pit lane around here, by the way, for those of you curious, around about a 50-second pit lane time. Obviously, that's not the amount of time, total time, that you'll lose. Normally, the way that it works is obviously you take off your pit time as actual time lost because you're not moving, and then your pit lane time, you sort of take off about 10 seconds on what your pit lane time is and add that onto, or add the rest onto then what your pit time is, and that will get you sort of a rough estimate on how much actual time that you've lost under pits. And speaking of pits, Izzo, Smits, Dylan, and James all into the pit lane together, and they are battling.
Yeah, they're battling in the pit lane.
They do realise they can't bump draft in the pit lane, right?
Loads of cars in, isn't there? James
So, who
also
has the
in.
shorter stop? Who saved the most fuel?
Oh,
Was it
Benjamin's
Dylan,
definitely
or
out of
was
this.
it...
Benjamin's still in the pits there, isn't he? And it's Dylan.
Oh, Dylan managed to jump. And again, Izzo, by the way, comes out of the pit lane, still in the lead of this race by a pretty convincing lead. That's 8 seconds to his teammate in Lorenzo Castellani, who is P2 now overall. It does say P5 on the little numbers on the side. Those LED numbers, very useful. I'm glad they brought those into endurance racing, by the way. Makes it so much easier at night to tell who is where.
Oh yeah, it's definitely definitely a smart move bringing those in. Yeah, 100%.
And it's quite funny because the way that they trialed that sort of system at first was that they would only do it for the top 3, and there would just be like little dots. As we see, Luigi turns in, or tried to turn in, and couldn't because of an LMP. And I believe that was about the only drama we had there. Just a little bit of grass cutting, and that was about it. And yeah, going back to this story, so on the LMPs, you'll probably see it actually, as Frank Smits goes past. So by where the number plate is, you see those 3 little dots that go down the side of the number plate. Now, those would light up depending on whether or not you were in P3, P2, or P1. And if you weren't in the top 3, obviously, they'd be blank. And I don't know if that's a system that they still use on top of this new digital numbering system, but it was definitely one that they used to have. As I'm sure we could probably actually check, because if it still works, we will see that Dylan Bender Lands will have the dots by his number plate. It doesn't look like he does, so that's probably an outdated system now and no longer in use. But obviously, because they haven't updated the chassis really since introducing the digital number plates, or position markers, I should say. They've decided, you know what, we'll just keep the cutout. It just has no use anymore.
Yeah. Nice.
It's weight saving as well, isn't it?
Anything you can do to save weight is always a bonus.
If you don't have to have it as a solid panel, you can just have a piece of plastic behind it, then
Then that's all you need. Will this work? Do we see this crash? No, we won't see this crash either, which is fortunate. So it says that somebody had a crash, but then I think they're still moving, so apparently not. So that's slightly annoying. They are in the pits actually. No, so they did. So he's leaving the pits now. So surprised if he had a major one because he's still in the race. Unless he's had to use a quick repair. He did get passed by Adam after the incident, but I don't think we sadly could see. Let me see if I can see the pass from Adam. Is that possible? And no, it's the answer to that question. But he's now going to be back into the race. They continue to fight then. Frank is now ahead. Fight for P3 is going to go down to the last lap, isn't it? I don't think we're going to know who's going to finish third until they cross the line.
Yep, pretty much. And what I will imagine is going to happen, and I would love to see it if it does, is we're going to see both of them cross the line side by side, and it's going to finish like a NASCAR race, isn't it? They're going to be so close together on track that it's going to end with them side by side, and thanks to the lovely world of iRacing and our lovely timings that we have, we'll actually be able to see who wins the race. But if you were trying to do it through the naked eye, you probably won't.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is also dependent on traffic. If traffic can break the tow, then maybe Dylan isn't quite quick enough to catch up to the back of Frank. So we'll probably see that that is something that might not happen. But again, we still have another 8 minutes of this race to go. Based on the lap times, you would imagine they have about 6 or 7 laps left remaining of the race. Obviously, that's very much dependent on where the LMP1 leader is, or sorry, LMP2 leader is. And again, Dylan loves a bit of the push, doesn't he?
Yeah, he won't be doing that a couple laps time, will he? We're going to want to go past.
Yeah, and I think they're trying to do it to try and catch up to the back of Lorenzo. But I think Lorenzo is so quick by himself that these guys are just almost... I just think they're just too far behind at this point. Realistically. I mean, last lap times, right? If we take just a look at the last lap times, because obviously they're going to be the most representative of what these guys are doing in their current car state. You've got Dylan van der Lands and Frank Smits did pretty much the same sort of lap time. They did a 1:33.5.
Oh, it's
now,
cool. That was close.
Very close to the GT traffic. And Lorenzo's last lap was a 1:33.57. So around about sort of, you know, if you want to round up, about a tenth off. Right? Now, if we're saying we've only got like 8 laps left, and you're only a tenth faster per lap, then really you kind of have to be within their slipstream range to be making sort of any moves doing the push. And yeah, unfortunately, that's not quite the case.
No, they're not going to get there, are they?
Other than that. Yeah, it's about a 5-second gap, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 5-second gap. They're not going to get. Unless something goes wrong with the traffic, but it's been pretty calm today, I'd say, with the traffic. Only a couple of incidents, less than the first 2 races, I'll say. It's been a bit sketchy at times, but it's been better than before, I'd say. I think there's going to be an LMP2 appear on the right-hand side in a second. Yeah, somewhere there.
The other no limits car, which is
Mika. Yeah.
Yep.
And the lead, is that the leader as well coming through? I think that's the leader as well in the LMP2s.
That is indeed Alessandro Izzo, who, I mean, to be fair, he's taken a pretty commanding lead on this race, hasn't he?
Yes, he has, yeah. Absolutely dominated it.
Like, when you consider the fact that he hasn't had slipstream pretty much for the entire race versus everyone else who has, it's just, it is insane how much that difference is between what Izzo's able to do and like what Castellani is able to do in clean air, and then what everyone else is able to do with a slipstream buddy. You know, like last lap time for Alessandro Izzo, admittedly with traffic more than likely, was doing a 1:33.7. Now, in terms of lap times that Dylan and Frank were doing, that was 0.3 quicker than what they did, probably with similar sorts of levels of traffic. And it does surprise me though, because Alessandro's fastest lap is actually not the fastest lap of the race. The fastest lap of the race so far has been with Lorenzo with a 1:31.92, which we made a point of because it was insanely close to what the pole position man did. And obviously, if you can match the pole time in the race, then
It was near the start as well, wasn't it? It was quite early on, I'd say. So he had fuel on board a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one thing that surprises me though, within the Mercedes drivers here, and maybe we'll see one who's using it, but the Mercedes, as far as I'm aware, within iRacing, has the ability, so you can see the lights on the Mercedes cars, right? You've got that lovely strip on above either door, and also they have one where they can actually put a light on the antenna on the car. And it looks like it was a massive glow stick. Now, I don't know whether or not that is a thing that that iRacing have incorporated into the sim. I know they do it in real life. I, again, don't know if it's in iRacing. I know it's in other simulators that I'm not going to mention today because this is an iRacing stream. But I'm sure you can figure out which one I mean. If you're into your GT racing, you'll know. It's the best way to put it.
It's an interesting thing. Why would you want a light on an antenna then? What a random thing to have.
So, a lot of that comes down to the pit lane guys being able to see their car quicker.
Ah, okay.
So obviously at night time, when you've got so many headlights blaring at you and you're in the pit lane, you need a very quick way to identify what car is mine and what car is a competitor's, so that you can obviously wave the driver into the box quickly. Because when you're in the car, obviously you don't have all those headlights looking at you.
Yeah.
Now, if you're on the ground, you do. So you have to compete with all of those bright lights from the LMP cars, but then also you need to try and figure out, right, I can't really make out the number plate from here, but I can make out, you know, in the LMPs, for example, you see above the cockpit of the LMPs, you've got those 3 dots just underneath where the air intake is. Again, similar sort of thing for that. It's primarily for identification purposes. And the reason why that they have the lights in so many different positions on the GTs is because Mercedes were finding it, or at least some of the factory teams were finding it difficult to identify which car was which, based on just the ones on the door. So they wanted something else that would actually make the difference. And I believe in real life, Porsche actually adjusted the headlights so that the headlights would have different colors on the because the way that Porsche's headlights are, if you've ever seen them, is they've got 4 bulbs, and they actually changed out 2 of the bulbs to be different colors. So then that way you could actually quickly take a look at the headlights and see that the pattern's different.
Right.
And that was going to be your way to pick out your car. It's so interesting, but insanely nerdy.
Yeah, racing for you, isn't it? Yeah, the level of detail people go to is, yeah, it can make a big difference at the end, and you wouldn't think it, but yeah, I mean, you wouldn't notice as well unless you knew. But yeah, that's new to look out for it. But yeah, that's incredible, really, that they go to so much detail. We are now on the final lap of the race, I'd say, because time has just run out and
Where is Izzo on track,
he's
actually? Did he
halfway
cross the
round.
line? So no, he didn't cross the line. So this is indeed the final lap of the race. And unfortunately for Dylan Verlands, I don't think he's going to make it. He has one corner left, does he not? He's got the bus stop and then the back straight to do it. But Alessandro Izzo is going to cross your line to win here at Daytona. We'll take our version of the Daytona 24 victory. And all these other LMP2 cars are also going to be battling so hard. We're going to see Dylan across the line.
He's got him!
Who took him? Dylan just managed to get there. What a race! Dylan right at the end. That was absolutely insane. All right, at the end of this race, when everyone else has crossed the line, can we get a replay
what
of
an
that?
overspeed.
Can we get a screenshot of that?
What?
Like from like an overview, like top-down view, where did they cross the line together? Because that looked so close. That was insane, out of absolutely nowhere. We knew it was going to be close, but bloomin' heck. That was nuts. That was nuts.
On the line, almost.
Get some hype for that. That was insane. Frank and Dylan providing one hell of a race the entire time. I mean, they were gunning for it, weren't they? Always. Always. Always gunning for it. And there indeed, Alessio Bernardi will take your win in GT, followed off by Suarez, and then Victor will finish out in P3, hopefully. I don't want to jinx it. He literally just has to go around a corner, which is not really a corner, so he will comfortably take P3. And then Tim Perry in P4 with Luigi Nespolino in P5 for your top 5 in GT, and all Porsches in G5 and in top 5, by the way. All Porsches in GT3. Every single one of them. And we have some donuts. Oh, look at that. Both Mercedes getting in the big skids. Absolutely awesome to see. That's beautiful, isn't it?
Oh, it's fantastic. Two teammates having a good drift at the end.
Absolutely. Oh, they were trying to get...
There you go. That's lovely. That is how you...
So cool to see, isn't it?
Right, let's find this then. Let's find this pass. It's got to come up as a pass. Here we are. Here we are. Here we go then.
So here we go. Dylan trying to get all the speed he can. He goes all the way to the apron. Now, obviously, when you look at it from that angle, he was pretty far back, wasn't he? By the time they crossed the line. But even still, like side by side, he's on the apron now.
Well, it's the overspeed, isn't it? Look how far back he is at the...
Nope.
Go around. There we go. At the bus stop.
See him. Yeah, pretty much a car length between them as they go around the bus stop. And we lose him off the camera a little bit. And then... yeah, you just see how quickly he catches up on the draft. Now, I'm not going to say anything. But... would you classify the apron as a racing surface?
I would say... I'd say yes. Because there's technically no white line. But I think they would have discussed that in the...
Because potentially that could be a little bit controversial.
Yeah, I think they would have discussed that in the driver's briefing, I think, hopefully. And they would have known whether he could or couldn't do that move, but I'm sure he should be fine. It would stay.
But either way, here are your race results for race number 3 here in the Anti-Stall IMSA series from Daytona Speedway. We did have Alessandro Izzo, who took the win from Lorenzo Castellani. Dylan van der Lands did finish P3 after a rather impressive last lap overtake on Frank Smits, who finished P4. Hakon Grebstad finishes out P5 with Carlo Labate in P6. Max Voss in P7 with Sebastian van den Heuvel in P8. James Ebram in P9 with Miguel Alpaulo. I think it's Alpaulo. Correct me if I'm wrong, Miguel, obviously. Please do it. Again in P10. And that will round out your top 10 in the LMP2 class. We can jump over. Let's take a look at what the GT3 race results were. And your race results in GT3, Alessio Bernardi takes your win from Raul Suarez, from Victor, from Tim Perry, from Luigi Nespolino as your top 5 with Christian Glamsetter P6, Adam Hedgecock P7, David Contos P8, and then...
Hopefully that goes away. It should go away.
Right, where did I get to? I think I got to Adam Hedgecock at
You
9
did, yeah.
P7 with David Contos P8. Lewis Griggan P9 with João Diaz rounding out your top 10 in GT. And again, what a race it was, Wes, as always here at ASR in the IMSA series.
Oh, it was chaotic, wasn't it? It was brilliantly chaotic. Yeah, I think it was great between the LMP2s, wasn't it? There was like a 4 or 5 car battle the entire way. I'd say everyone dealt with traffic a bit better this week as well. I think it was great. Yeah, the GT3s, I think, stretched a little bit, didn't they? There was some battling in the midfield, but I say the top 6 sort of stretched away of the Porsches. But yeah, the racing this week was within the LMP2 field and right in the top end for the top 3, really, was where top for third place was the fight. The top 2 sort of got away during the race a bit, but yeah, there was a real fight on most of the race for 4 cars, wasn't it? Benjamin and Code and Dylan pushing each other down the back straight for most of the race. Like, yeah, it was quite good. It was good, really good from the LP2s. Was a good action from the GT3s as well. I'd say a few cars didn't finish, but you know, that's racing sometimes. But I think it went, all in all, went pretty well, I'd say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's you know, it's always awesome to see these multi-class racing, and we do hope that everybody who was watching along with the stream also enjoyed the racing with us. Now, again, if you want to get yourself involved, then feel free to do so. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe we actually have spots open in both classes now. I believe we do, because how many GT3s did we have there racing with us today? Was that 25 in total?
We had quite a few, didn't we? I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, 25, but 2 of them didn't take the start. So there are still 5 more GT3 entries being allowed in, and a massive amount of LMP2s still being allowed in. I believe it's like 8, possibly, LMP2 entries also allowed in. So if you want to join in, and absolutely I'd recommend doing it, get yourself involved. Next week, we're off to Japan, by the way, Wes.
Yeah, Fuji, isn't it?
Next week. Fuji International Speedway. Now, if you think you saw a draft battle here at Daytona, wait until you see that straight at Fuji. My lord. It is a long straight. And what a circuit it is. I am so excited for that one. But you know where to catch us. Make sure you follow us along with us. We've got all the socials linked below, all of our affiliates linked below. And again, we can't wait to see you getting yourself involved. Thank you so much for everyone who is watching, all the drivers for getting also involved with the action that we have here. Obviously, we can't do what we do without them. And also, you know, Wes, I can't do what I do without you. So thank you again, mate.
Well, thank you very much.
Providing amazing broadcasting, as always. It's a pleasure. a pleasure to share the box with you.
Oh, still, yeah, absolute pleasure with you as well. I can sit here sometimes and allow you to talk as about lights and whatnot, which is fantastic. I get to sit back and learn as well while I'm here about racing, as I haven't really watched lots and lots. I do watch the Le Mans obviously each year, but I don't keep up to date with the endurance racing as much as I would like, because there's so much motorsport, isn't there, to try and keep up with. But yeah, it's always great to learn a lot, and as we sit and watch these cars each week. It's great. I learn a lot about the cars. You know, the light thing is an awesome little detail, which I will now be able to. I'm going to throw that in a conversation with someone at some point as well. I'll be able to throw. I'm going to throw that in. You know, at Christmas with my family, if we're sitting there talking about racing, I will throw that in at the Christmas dinner table. Oh, did you know? But lights, yeah. So you're going to make me look smart at Christmas. So thank you very much for that one.
There you go. Now, as I say, it is just endurance racing, IMSA racing, WEC, you know, wherever it is, I'm always a massive fan of. So it's always a pleasure to absolutely just see everything that we have in here. And being able to see the multi-class racing, it's so cool. And I'm so happy that we get to do this every single week. It is absolutely incredible. And again, can't wait to see you guys next week. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching. And we will see you at Fuji.